Welcome, Josefina Rosario, founder of Colores Design Studio and design consultant. I'm very happy to have you on my podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Marco, for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here as well.
Yeah, so we've been speaking about this for a while. So, would you mind just introducing yourself to our
Yes.
audience?
I am a design consultant. My background is in architecture. I started in the Dominican Republic and then moved to Barcelona and did a couple of masters in spatial planning and land management. And then I worked in urban planning for a while in the Dominican Republic. And then I moved back here. I have done various industries from healthcare to hospitality, more focused on residential right now. I started my business about a year ago. That's when you and I crossed paths. We both did the sponsorship for the rec room. Then we stumbled up to each other's Instagram and like connected that way. And I immediately sparked a good energy about reworking my logo with you. And that's how all of this got to be. And then even from that time, we started talking about this podcast.
Yes.
So I'm excited to finally be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on again. So, the reason why I started this podcast is really to highlight the need for human collaboration and really put a spotlight on the value that design can bring to many different businesses. Would you mind sharing a little bit about your journey and how you ended up doing interior and architectural design?
First of all, I wanted to go back to the wording that you said at the beginning, doing the podcast for human collaboration. I should point out that I had worked my own logo with somebody through an online platform, never really had connection to that person, just gave that person a few pointers. He produced a logo for me. And then, when you and I got to talk and discuss this and have a more human connection, and we had a few coffees to discuss this logo, and that really clicked, that connectivity, that ideas flow differently. I think at some point we even discussed doing some hand sketches, and that started, sparkle a great afternoon play with your daughter. I remember doing a lot of sketches for the logo, and that was really awesome. So I just wanted to go back to that a little bit because that was really the key to my new logo and even developing my own branding. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, and thank you for producing this podcast with this human sense in mind.
Thank you so much as well also for a fun collaboration. And I would like to just hear a little bit more about what you think was how it is different to work with a more close connection with a person, meeting, Zoom calls, as opposed to just working from emailing somebody that you haven't met.
Right. Um, it was different in the sense that, in email, you get to say a lot of, you get to break down all the information, all the things. I never was able to have a phone call with this person or a Zoom call. It was all online through a platform. Between the day that that person received my message, may have not been online at the moment. It may have took him 1 or 2 days to get back to me, and then yet by the time that that person had come back with some options, they were still disjointed or disconnected. And I thought that when you and I then talk or got to meet, to work together, even to write some things, to sketch on even going back to our phones and looking for references, or even in the coffee shop that we were like discussing a specific marketing that they had and stuff like that, that on its own created more value to what you brought, to my logo. And that was really important. I'm not saying that, It is not impossible to work away, or like have those people doing stuff for you even from far or in an email way. But there is definitely a lot that can be gained from still having those human connections, those sit down moments, even like just talking about our morning, or what happened last week, can spark other conversations and other ideas. And so I think that little click, that little connection is really really meaningful.
I very much agree, also, especially when you talk about identities for a company where there's one person working at that company, then it's very important that you as the owner, you feel connected to that identity.
That afternoon with your daughter sparks something else, right? Like, um it was also a moment of going back to the table, like just sitting down. Even your own conversation and your own moment with her may have impacted the way that the logo itself was going, and that was deeply interesting to me. And I remember that was ultimately the logo that we chose and we brought it into color. At the end of the day, was not just the connection with me, but I remember that afternoon was key to create that, and that was really special.
That was a lesson for me as well, because I didn't quite know where to go. And then I thought, I'm just gonna let's go back to basics, sketch some paper. Then my daughter took out some triangles, some circles, some squares, basic shapes, and then suddenly architecture, interior design. Then it kind of it came, and again, a lesson for me. Sometimes we need to just go back to basics, go for a walk, take a drawing pad, and start sketching, because
Yeah.
sometimes the computers is not helping us.
Yep. I agree with that. There is a lot of help in there, but it is still missing that component that we as creative as humans add to it. So yes, I 100% agree on that. There are moments even that you try to explain something, or like find a photo in the internet to share with your client about a specific vision, or like how you are hoping that something will look. And the client may still have a hard time even envisioning from that one image how it's going to be translated to their image, to their own space. And so even those moments are really important, to go back to the table, to go and draw a sketch and show them within their own walls how is it going to look.
Somebody wants to remodel their kitchen or their living room. How do you begin that process? And can you explain the key phases in a process from beginning to final kitchen?
First of all, we have to identify, and I would say, the clients have to identify what level they are in the market. Some people may just be trying to learn if something is possible, but not be ready to do it yet. Other people may be like really ready. We always try to identify in what level are you, to see how we can best help you. Because in some cases, what will be enough for you is to have a quick guidance or idea of something. You can, as a professional, kind of throw a budget together real quick and give them an idea, or even tell them from the get-go how things could start. For many people, it's really important to know, the timelines. How many months are they going to be without a kitchen? And so all of a sudden, even that little portion, if you are having a baby in 2 months, for example, but your kitchen cannot be ready until 3.5 months, you cannot leave, you cannot bring a baby into a, construction zone. And so identifying if you are really in the market for ideas, a proposal, just a light consultation, or if you are really in the market to move forward with your project. There are different also type of clients that are doing this for the first time, or in others that are more seasoned and know have done other constructions, whether it has been small or big, and then they kind of understand the dynamics of them. In sense of process, the first things that we do as professionals is we try to talk to them, ask them, questions of like, what are you really looking for? Is it more practicality? Is it pure, enhancing your space? What are the things that are key that have worked in this kitchen that you would like to keep? And then what are the things that you would like to change? So you start asking those questions. It's like, good questionnaires at the beginning. You may have only a stove at the moment, but you now want a cooktop with like wall mounted oven. So it starts getting interesting once you start talking to people, and then you get to the table, you start designing if you have already measured the project, and after that, then you work on the finishes, and depending on the project, if it includes furniture or if it includes also your participation on the construction administration part, then you go all on into assisting the clients all the way to the moving day. In between all that, there are obviously clear phases that you can determine, like the schematic is that first portion where you are asking them all the questions and getting to know them. And then you have the design development, where you are specifying all the little things like, we want this type of appliances, this type of doors instead of drawers in here. We want this flow in this kitchen. So you start specifying all that and the finishes. And we call it also like, at that moment you work with the fixtures, so all the plumbing, all the electrical. And then you go into construction drawings. At that point, you are preparing for permit and for the construction to give it to the general contractor that was hired to do the job. And the last phase is usually what we call the construction administration. You are just, visiting the job site and making sure that things are according to plan, and you address any concerns that may arise in the previous weeks with the construction, etc. So there are kind of four clear big chunks of periods that we identify.
One thing that relates to human psychology, I can imagine that sometimes if people actually have to rebuild a kitchen, most often it's two people that need to agree. How do you navigate that dynamic?
That's a very good question. As you know, interior designers, architects, we definitely have to wear a hat of psychology sometimes, and or mediator rather, and try to help the clients navigate through their own disagreements, or even their own like specific questions or concerns. You may be more concerned for what type of a stove you are putting, if it's gas or induction, where the other person may be more concerned on like what type of dishwasher you are putting, right? um, and how are those two items breaking the bank, are or what takes priority, what's more important. And so you start asking the questions to each individual or to them as a couple. Things start aligning usually, and when they don't align, you always leave the clients with a homework for them to kind of work that internally, once they're at home and have walked their kitchen again, and like do a day in the process of like, let's do the dishwasher, let's do the range, and let's see what happens. Related to that example, we'll say, okay, go to the store and look at these items yourself and like see how. And so I think it is a little bit of a therapeutic connection for all of us, because even sometimes things that are happening in your own house, you are seeing that dynamic through somebody else, and you are learning through that process yourself. So it is really, I love that portion of the job, because I think it's really where you see the human portion of all of us, what we care, what is important, and then how we all relate in our own homes as a partnership. It's really important that happens throughout the construction. It's where the mediation and the best designs actually happen.
I can imagine that it also is quite important to work with a designer that you kind of have a good feeling with. Do you have some thoughts to people for how to select the right interior designer, architectural designer to work with?
That is a very good question. I agree with you in that portion of feeling. I think there should be a nice connection to that person. But more importantly, and I have seen this over and over again, even with general contractors, is that you should be looking for the person that you can see that will do the job right. If you choose to, the work itself will always evolve in a different way depending on who you are working with. And so once you have trusted your gut by selecting somebody, you immediately have to not think about how it would have been if I went with Marco instead of Josephine.
Yeah.
So I think that is a very important thing to do. I think the going with feeling is something that you should keep in consideration, but at the same time, betting their past jobs, their past clients, and, looking at their website. Um, Nowadays, social media is a very good way to find out not just about the work that they do, but their own roots as people. You asked me when you and I were working together if so. I love colors, right? And Colores is the name of my company. Would somebody that wants something all white not choose you? I remember we had that conversation, and you and I were talking on this topic around my logo, if it had a lot of colors or not. But my answer to that, I remember at that moment, was that no. I mean, I love color, but color will have its moment even if it's all white. There is a lot of intentionality even to do a monochromatic white on white room, and so that was important to me. That question came from you, because even through that question I learned a lot on that concept of, like, if you're seeing my logo, are you then only working with colors?
Do you do you find that you tend to work with a certain type of
Not necessarily. That hasn't been the case in my entire career, even before I had my own company, and it hasn't been the case even for me as a professional going through different offices. I have worked in healthcare, hospitality, big box, commercial, small retail, residential, and in all of these, and then I also did urban planning in the Dominican Republic, and in all of these cases you are working for different entities, whether it's a partnership, is a company that you are trying to work with their branding, with their information requests, or if it's a actual just end user residential client that you are basically coming in and impacting their life in a way to make it better, to make it uh, more practical to them, usually is the case. So I have really worked with so many clients, and all different type of backgrounds, type of, and so I have never had a specific formula for that, and
yeah.
I think the same goes a lot for my own interests. At the moment, I'm focusing more on residential, but I have done, even in these last 6 months, working with a warehouse, trying to renovate it and create fit outs for them so that they can rent it to different tenants. I have worked with in a smaller commercial space, and then also residential clients, whether we are combining apartments or renovating just the kitchen. It always goes differently. each project is different, each client is different, each project them itself will bring a whole set of key ingredients. And then coming from the DR and trying to translate that into what I do, I think colors is the main thing that is coming from there, but also materiality. Having that sense of your residential space is sacred and it has to be a representation of you as a home. I remember that was very important to me growing up, and it is still now within my own house and then with the ways that we treat other clients' houses. So I think in in an invisible way that thread is there on how a home is. It doesn't change whether you are coming from the Dominican Republic or you are in this country. It has something very meaningful for each of us. And I think coming into every house or every family and like you are disrupting a lot of their modus vivendus for a while the construction is happening or you are having those heavy design meetings. But once you start seeing at the end of construction people saying, wow,
Yeah.
thank you. I wasn't sure when I was trusting, like, I didn't have the whole vision as you had in your head, but I know I was trusting you, and now I can see it. And people ask, "Was this always in your head?" And so I think that is so fascinating. That is so fascinating, and I just always love that people gain more room or more color or that added bonus of just joy and happiness in their houses once you add an extra something.
So it's very much about trust and working with somebody that you trust has the overview of the vision, even though you may not be able to see it yourself as a client.
Correct.
You're very involved in your community in different ways. How do you see the role of a designer and your role in a community?
For even the past, I would say, 3 years now, almost 4 years, I walked through one of my neighboring museums and I was like, hmm, maybe there is a way we could help that museum. And I remember talking to my previous boss at that moment, and we donated. He donated some of our time to that museum, and I have continuously worked with them even after I'm not in that office. So I have continued being part of that museum, assisting them with, my time and my knowledge. And in my own township, I'm part of two committees actually, open space and the Latino committee. And I will always feel that if there is time or resources that I can provide to my own town or to local entities that need the help or can benefit from it, I will always do that. I grew up seeing my parents doing that in the Dominican Republic, and that is very close to my roots. So that is really important to me. So the same way that I have been working or helping the museum, I would love to get involved, and I will always not just wait for that door to be knocked, but the same way I did with the museum, even walk myself in and say, do you need help? I think we are always going to be stronger if we work together. That's really important in my to my core. That's a very important lesson that I learned early on.
So if we talk about the future of interior design, architecture, building design, where do you see the future for your field? And how do you think it will be impacted in terms of sustainability, materials, but also AI?
That's a very important topic. It has been for the past, couple of years in the sense of sustainability, and definitely AI now has really gotten to the front row in a way. I think that the more sustainable materials that we can use and ways to have buildings produce less heat, the more that, you know, we are going to be safer, elongating our lives. I definitely try to work with companies that are very key in sustainable, in recycling their own products, giving back to the community. I love companies that are not just owned by owners, but like all the employees also have shares in them. And so every time I can, I am introducing materials and concepts and ideas that will be pushing the sustainability forward. And then in the sense of AI, I think you and I also, talk a lot about this at the beginning of the year. It's here. It has been here for a while. It's now just like the internet, in the
Yeah.
90s, like making it mainstream. I think we need to learn how to use it for positive, whether it's helping our job or in other ways, but we need to learn how to use it in a positive way because it's basically where the future is going. So the more that we know now, the better that we will have outcomes for our own industries, for our own path. So learning those key things on how to see ourselves working with AI, um, down the road, I think it's going to be very important.
I know you have some very cool personal projects. Would you share a little bit about some of those projects where you do like different artifacts?
Yes, thank you. I have many years ago founded Paper Bijouterie, which is a company that focuses on using materials, upcycling materials, recycling them to create jewelry from them, necklaces, and other pieces of jewelry. That is a project that is very dear to me. I'm going to be participating in a town, as a vendor with that soon, and also having a comeback to painting. Through my entire childhood, I study art, and I am missing that a lot. And I'm coming back to oil painting. Is my favorite medium. So I look forward also to soon also showcasing some of those projects.
Where can people connect with you? Where can they find you online?
You can look at my website, Colores Design Studio. You can use my Instagram at Colores Design, and you can feel free to email me info@coloresdesign.com. I will be very excited to hear from you. And so looking forward to having new connections and new conversations.
I very much appreciate your time here, and I look forward to grabbing a coffee at the new co-working space in Montclair when it opens.
Yes, I look forward to that as well.